Trust is a strange thing. You do not wake up every morning thinking about it. You do not check to see if it is still there. You just believe in it, the same way you believe the ground will hold your weight or the sun will rise tomorrow. It is supposed to be solid, unshakable, until the moment you realize it never was. It was a Tuesday, just an ordinary, forgettable Tuesday. One of those days that drags by, filled with meetings and emails that do not mean much in the grand scheme of things. But for some reason, I felt off. Maybe it was the way the wind carried storm's promise, or maybe it was just something deep in my gut telling me to go home early. So I did. No reason, no plan. Just a feeling. A choice made in a split second. And that one decision changed everything. I pulled into the driveway, same as always. My wife's car sat in its usual spot. Nothing seemed out of place. I grabbed my briefcase, locked the car, and headed for the front door. The second I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The house was quiet, but not in the usual way. There was music playing from the living room, soft and slow, the kind of song that lingers in the air like a secret. It was not background noise. It was intentional. It was the kind of music you play when words are whispered and hands wander. I stood there for a moment, my pulse quickening, my instincts screaming at me to pay attention. The air smelled different, too. Perfume. Heavy. Fresh. Not the kind that lingers from a morning routine, but the kind that has just been sprayed, hanging thick in the air like a warning. I walked forward, my footsteps careful on the hardwood. And then I saw them. At first, my brain refused to process what my eyes were telling me. It did not fit. It did not make sense. But I saw everything. My wife, too close to him. A kid. Some damn kid. Could not have been more than 20, maybe younger. Her fingers tangled in his hair. Their mouths pressed together, slow, deep like nothing else in the world mattered. I stopped breathing. For a second, it was like my mind shut off. No thoughts, no words, just silence. Even the music seemed to fade away. Then the heat came. A fire in my chest, spreading like gasoline, catching flame. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I did not think, did not stop to process. The words came out before I even knew I was speaking. Jessica. Not a yell, not a whisper. Just her name, sharp and cold. She froze. The kid jumped back like he'd been burned, his eyes wide, his mouth still wet from kissing my wife. His hands hovered in the air, caught between reaching for her and stuffing them in his pockets. Jessica turned, her face pale, her eyes wide with shock, like she never expected to get caught, like she thought she was safe. Safe from me. Something inside me cracked, but I did not let it show. Her mouth opened, maybe to explain, maybe to lie, maybe to beg. I did not care. I stepped forward, and she stepped back. Her hands lifted slightly, like she thought I might do something. Like I was the threat here. I was not a violent man. Never had been. But in that moment, I could have torn the whole damn house apart with my bare hands. She spoke, her voice thin, breaking. It is not what it looks like. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was the dumbest thing I had ever heard. Not what it looks like. I saw it. I watched it. What else could it be? The kid, whoever the hell he was, looked like he wanted to disappear. I could see his mind racing, trying to decide if he should stay and defend her or just run. If he had any sense at all, he would run. Because right now, all I could see was red. Jessica took another step back. Her lips parted like she was searching for the right excuse. But there was nothing she could say to fix this. Nothing to erase what I had just seen. Nothing to stop what was coming next. And whatever was coming next, one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Her mouth moved, but I did not hear a damn word. It was all noise, empty, useless noise. Excuses, explanations, anything to make this seem like less than what it was. But I knew. I had seen it. The kid, the stupid, clueless kid, had already inched back, trying to figure out how to escape. He should have run the second I walked in. Hell, he never should have been here at all. But now he was just standing there, frozen, caught in a disaster he helped create. Jessica was quicker. She had always been good at talking her way out of things. Twisting the truth. Making sure she never looked like the bad guy. Listen, she started, voice shaky but controlled. It is not. I laughed again, sharp and humorless. Not what it looks like. I could still see it. The way her fingers curled in his hair. The way their lips moved together like it was second nature. It was not an accident. It was not new. It had been happening long before today. My hands curled into fists, my breath coming hard through my nose as I forced myself to stay still. My voice was low, rough. So tell me, Jessica, what exactly is it then? She swallowed. I took another step forward. She stepped back. The kid, still frozen in place, lifted his hands slightly, like he thought he might have to protect her. That made me laugh again. This boy, this idiot, had no idea what it felt like to stand where I stood, to look at the woman you build a life with and realize she was never really yours at all. Jessica's voice broke the silence, rushed now. He is one of my students. I did not flinch, did not react, but inside something shattered. Her student. Of course. Jessica was a professor, had been for years. She loved teaching, loved the way young minds soaked up her words. And clearly, she loved it a little too much. The kid looked down at the floor, shame creeping into his expression. Good. He should feel ashamed. If he thought I was about to give him some cheap way out, if he thought I was just going to throw a punch and walk away like some angry fool in a bad movie, he was dead wrong. I was not going to hit him. That would be too easy. That would make him the victim. And I was not giving him or Jessica that luxury. I turned back to her. Your student, I repeated. She nodded quickly, desperate now. Yes, it is not. I cut her off. How long? She hesitated. That was enough of an answer. I exhaled hard, forcing myself to stay still, forcing my fists to stay at my sides. How long had she been lying to me? How long had she been sneaking around? How long had she been kissing me goodbye in the mornings, knowing she was coming back here and doing the same thing to him? She opened her mouth, closed it again. And then, because she could not help herself, because she had always been the kind of person who needed control, she stepped toward me. Please, she said, her voice softer now. I know this looks bad, but it is not what you think. I tilted my head slightly, my body tense. Not what I think. She nodded quickly. He's been struggling in class. We have been meeting outside of office hours to go over. I laughed, short and bitter. Right, I said, dragging the word out. That is what this is? Extra credit? Is that what you are calling it now? The kid finally spoke, voice weak. Sir, I did not mean. I turned my head toward him so fast he shut up. Jessica reached for my arm. I jerked away before she could touch me. I did not want her hands on me. Not after they had been on him. I can explain. No, I said, my voice as cold as steel. You cannot, because there was no explanation that could make this right. No excuse she could offer that would erase what I had just seen. The only thing left now was to decide what happened next. And I already knew one thing for sure. Jessica was not walking away from this unscathed. She was about to learn what it felt like to lose everything. She looked at me like she still had a shot, like there was some way she could twist the truth, smooth over the cracks, make me see things her way. She was wrong. She had already lost. The kid, because that is all he was, just some dumb kid, stood frozen, his eyes darting between us, waiting for some kind of signal like he needed someone to tell him what to do next. His gaze kept flicking toward Jessica, like she was supposed to save him. I almost laughed. Jessica could not even save herself. She took a breath, trying to steady herself, her voice going soft, almost gentle. Listen. No. That single word sliced through the room. Her lips clamped shut, her body stiffening. She was not used to this. Not from me. I had always been the patient one. The one who listened, who let her talk circles around me until I gave in. Not this time. I stepped forward, slow and deliberate. The tension in the air thickened. The kid inched back, but he did not run. I almost wished he would. It would have been easier. Watching him scramble out the door, trip over himself, try to escape. It would have been satisfying. But he stayed. Jessica stayed. And that meant this was not over. I let my eyes settle on her, taking her in like I was seeing her for the first time. The nervous twitch of her fingers at her sides. The way her body shifted, like she was bracing for something she knew was coming. The look in her eyes, those same eyes I had trusted for years, now filled with something that looked a whole lot like fear. Good. She should be afraid. Tell me, I said, my voice even. How long? She swallowed hard. I already knew the answer. Long enough. Long enough for her to lie to my face. Long enough for her to kiss me goodbye in the mornings, knowing she would come back here and do the same damn thing to him. Long enough for them to stop hiding. That is what stung the most. The ease of it. The way I had walked in and they had not even noticed right away. They had not been sneaking. They had not been nervous. This was not a mistake. It was routine. Jessica opened her mouth, then shut it again. She could not answer, and that silence told me everything I needed to know. I took a slow breath, keeping myself in check. Every muscle in my body was locked tight, ready to snap. I wanted to put my fist through the wall. I wanted to make them feel even an ounce of what was burning through me. But I would not give them that satisfaction. Instead, I turned my attention to the boy, because that is all he was, a boy playing a game he did not understand. I let my gaze drag over him, taking in the way he stood, stiff, awkward, his whole body coiled like he was trying to decide whether to fight or flee. I leaned in slightly, my voice dropping. "How old are you?" He hesitated. My jaw tightened. "Answer me." His throat bobbed. 20. Jesus. I let out a slow, humorless chuckle, running a hand down my face. Jessica was 38. 18 years. That was the gap between them. I could not even process that. I had spent years thinking I knew the woman I married, and here she was throwing everything away for some kid who probably still had term papers due. I looked back at her, my expression blank. "You are pathetic." She flinched. Good. That landed. She could try to spin this, could dig through her usual bag of tricks, but she could not rewrite reality. She had been caught, and now she had to live with it. She took a shaky breath and tried again. I did not mean for this to happen." I laughed. "That is cute. I am serious." She pushed, more desperate now. It just happened. I never planned it." I stared at her. "You never planned it?" She nodded quickly. "Yes. It was not like that. I was not." I stepped closer, watching her flinch again. "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice low and sharp. "You just tripped and landed on his lips." Her face twisted. Her hand shook. I did not let her finish. "Or maybe he tripped first," I continued. "Maybe he was just sitting in your classroom one day, and his mouth accidentally fell on yours." She had nothing. No answer. Because there was no answer. No way to spin this into something innocent. The kid shifted like he wanted to say something, but I shot him a look that shut him up fast. Jessica, though, she was still trying, still grasping at anything she could. "You have to understand." "No," I cut in. "I do not have to understand. And I will not." She bit her lip, her hands dropping to her sides. Her whole body seemed to sag under the weight of what she had done. And I was not done yet. I exhaled through my nose, shaking my head. "You know," I murmured, "I should thank you." Her brow furrowed. "What?" I met her gaze, steady and cold. "For showing me exactly who you are." The words hit her like a slap. Her breath caught, and for the first time, real panic flashed across her face. Because she knew this was it. This was not just a fight. This was the end. The kid shifted toward the door, finally realizing he wanted no part of this. I let him go. I was not going to stop him. He was not the one I was going to destroy. Jessica took a small, hesitant step toward me, like she was about to reach out. But I was already moving. I turned away, grabbing my keys from the table. And then I looked back one last time. "You do not exist to me anymore." Her lips parted, but no words came out. Because there was nothing left to say, I walked out, shutting the door behind me. I did not look back. I drove. I had no idea where I was going. I did not care. The road stretched ahead of me, endless and dark, my grip on the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. The rage was still there, simmering just beneath my skin, a slow burn that refused to die down. Every time I blinked, I saw it again. Her fingers in his hair, their bodies pressed together. The way they fit, easy and familiar, like I was the stranger in my own house. I pressed down on the gas. The engine roared beneath me, the speedometer climbing higher. Streetlights blurred past, streaking into nothing. I could have driven forever, let the road swallow me whole. But eventually, reality pressed in. I had nowhere to go. I was not going back home. Not now. Maybe not ever. And I sure as hell was not calling anyone. Not family, not friends. Not yet. I pulled into a gas station lot on the edge of town and shut off the engine. Silence. It hit me harder than I expected. Jessica was probably still standing in that living room, maybe even crying, maybe still thinking I would come back. She was out of her damn mind if she thought that. I leaned back against the seat, exhaling slow. 20 years. 20 damn years. That is how long I had known her. That is how long I had built a life with her. And in a single moment, she had burned it all to the ground. And, just like that, the life I had known was gone. It should have hurt more. I should have felt something besides rage. But the truth was, my mind had not even begun to process the loss yet. Maybe it never would. Because as far as I was concerned, Jessica had been dead to me the moment I saw her with him. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed movement. A man stood outside the gas station, flicking a lighter, the flame illuminating his face for a brief second before he took a slow drag from his cigarette. For a wild second, I imagined walking over, asking him for one, even though I had not touched a cigarette in years. What the hell was wrong with me? I shook the thought away, running a hand down my face. I needed to think. I needed a plan. Because this was not over. Not yet. Jessica had made her choices, played her game. And now it was my turn. And I was not about to let her walk away from this without consequences. I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen. No messages. No missed calls. She had not even tried to reach out. Maybe she was waiting, giving me space. Maybe she thought I would come crawling back when I was ready to talk. She really did not know me at all. I scrolled through my contacts, my thumb hovering over a name I had not called in years. Then I pressed it. The phone rang twice before a voice answered, groggy and irritated. Do you have any idea what time it is? I ignored that. I need a favor. A pause. Then a sigh. Jesus. What now? I took a breath, my pulse steady, my voice calm. I need to ruin someone's life. Silence. Then a low chuckle. Well, that is one hell of a way to start a conversation. I did not laugh. I was dead serious. Jessica thought she could burn everything we had built to the ground. She had no idea I was about to do the same to her. The voice on the other end of the line exhaled, slow and thoughtful. All right, he finally said. Who are we talking about? I stared straight ahead, my grip tightening on the phone. Jessica. Another pause. Then a quiet whistle. No kidding. Do I sound like I am kidding? Another beat of silence. All right. I am listening. I had not spoken to Caleb in years. Not in any meaningful way. We had been close once back when life was simpler before I got married, before he got involved in, well, things. Caleb was the guy people called when they needed something done. The kind of favors that came with a price. I never thought I would be the one making the call. But here I was. I took a breath. I did not want this to be easy for her. You want messy? He asked. I want destruction. Caleb let out a thoughtful hum. All right, he said. Tell me everything. And I did. I told him about the kiss, about the kid, about the years I'd spent living a lie while she pretended nothing was wrong. When I was done, Caleb let out a sharp laugh. Jesus, man. She really went for the student? Yeah. Damn. That is some midlife crisis bullshit. I did not respond. My grip on the phone was too tight, my jaw locked. Caleb sighed. All right. You want her to lose something? You want her to suffer? We have got options. I closed my eyes. Tell me. Option 1. He started, his voice casual, like we were discussing sports. We go the public humiliation route. Make sure everyone knows exactly what she did. Get in front of the right people. Her work, her friends, her little academic world. I clench my teeth. I can already picture it. Her colleagues whispering, her students staring, parents questioning if she should even be teaching. It was not enough. Caleb seemed to sense it. All right, he said. Option 2. We hit her where it really hurts. Her job. You mentioned he is a student, right? That means ethics violations. Power imbalance. She could get fired. That one made me pause. Jessica had spent her entire life building her career. She loved teaching, loved being in front of class, loved the way students hung onto her words. If that got taken away, she would not just lose a paycheck. She would lose herself. Caleb chuckled. I can already tell you like that one. I did not deny it, but I was not done yet. I want more, I said. Caleb whistled. Damn, you are really out for blood. I did not answer. Because, yeah, I was. Jessica had spent years looking me in the eye, kissing me goodbye, knowing full well she was running back to him. She had made her choice. Now I was making mine. Caleb sighed. All right, let's ruin her. I drove home, slower this time. The fire in my chest had not gone out, but now it had direction. A plan. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. I sat in the car for a long moment, staring at it. It did not feel like home anymore. Not after what had happened inside those walls. I finally got out and walked up to the front door. When I stepped inside, the silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. No music, no lights, no sign of her. I walked further in, and then I saw her. Jessica was curled up on the couch, staring at the floor, her arms wrapped around herself. She did not look up right away. She had been waiting for me. I shut the door behind me and took my time. I did not speak. I wanted her to feel it, the weight of this moment, the inevitability of it. Finally, she lifted her head, eyes red-rimmed, face pale. You came back, she whispered. I stared at her. You sound surprised. She swallowed. I thought maybe you. She stopped, shaking her head. I did not know if you would ever come back. I let the silence stretch. Then I shrugged. It is my house. She flinched. I walked past her, into the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, and took a slow sip. Jessica did not move. She was waiting, hoping I would sit down, that we would talk, that I would listen. I was not interested in talking. Not in the way she wanted. She took a shaky breath. I know you hate me right now. I did not correct her. She kept going. But I never wanted to hurt you. That one made me laugh. A real, sharp, bitter laugh. She winced. I mean it. It was stupid. I made a mistake. I set my glass down and turned to face her fully. A mistake. She nodded quickly. Yes, that is all it was. A horrible, horrible mistake. I tilted my head. Which part? She blinked. What? I took a step closer. Which part was the mistake? The lying? The sneaking around? The way you looked at him, like I did not exist. Her breath hitched. I leaned in slightly. Or was a mistake getting caught? Her face crumpled. That is not. I straightened. Save it. Her hands curled into fists in her lap. We can fix this. I did not even blink. We? Yes, she said, voice shaking. We can. We have been through too much. There is no we, Jessica. She let out a sharp breath. You do not mean that. I did, but I was not going to say it. Not yet, because I had plans now, and she was not going to see them coming. By the time she woke up, her world would be unrecognizable. I was not interested in closure. I was not interested in talking things out like some pitiful, heartbroken husband begging for an explanation. I was interested in destruction. Jessica thought she had control over this, that she had the power to decide how this ended. She had no idea that the moment she chose to betray me, she had lost all say in the matter. Betrayal is not just a wound. It is a wildfire. It does not just scorch the person who gets burned. It spreads, consuming everything in its path. And if my life was going up in flames, I was making damn sure she burned with it. I tapped on Caleb's message, my mind sharp, focused. He was good at this. Too good. Caleb thrived in chaos. He knew how to dig, how to expose, how to ruin. And the best part? He did not care about collateral damage. I used to. Not anymore. I opened the file he sent. My stomach curled in satisfaction. Emails, text messages, receipts, proof of Jessica's little mistake. I did not need to ask how Caleb got them. He had his ways. And right now, I had no interest in morality. I scrolled through them, jaw tightening. She had not just been careless. She had been arrogant. The kid, because that is all he was, a child playing pretend in a game meant for adults, had been sloppy. He had poured his little lovesick heart into texts, had sent messages late at night, had practically documented every pathetic moment of their affair. And Jessica? She had responded, encouraged it, fed into it. The same woman who once told me she could never forgive a cheater had been sneaking around like some giddy teenager. The irony would have been amusing if it was not so damn pathetic. Another message popped up from Caleb. Ready for phase 2? I exhaled, fingers tightening around the phone. Do it. Copying the university board. Oh, and faculty HR. You want students involved too. I paused, my tongue running over my teeth. That school was her life. Her identity. I was not just taking away her job. I was taking away who she was. She had already taken everything from me. Now was my turn. Everyone. Done. I leaned back, watching as he forwarded the proof. It was out of my hands now. It would not be long before the call started. Would not be long before the whispers began. Would not be long before Jessica stepped into a room and felt all those eyes on her, judgment crawling over her skin, the weight of her choices finally crushing her. And the best part? She would never see it coming. I sat in the kitchen, the minutes crawling by, waiting. And then I heard it. The bedroom door creaked open. Soft footsteps. A hesitant pause. Then, finally, she stepped into the room. Her eyes were puffy, her hair a tangled mess. She had slept in the same clothes as last night, and for a fleeting second, she almost looked like the woman I used to love. Almost. She swallowed hard, wrapping her arms around herself. You did not come to bed. I did not answer. Her fingers curled into the fabric of her sleeves. Are we going to talk about this? I tilted my head. What is left to talk about? She let out a slow breath. I know you were angry. That made me laugh. A sharp, bitter sound. She flinched. Jessica, I murmured, dragging my fingers across the rim of my glass. I am not angry. She blinked, confused. You are not. I leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with her. No, I said, my voice eerily calm. I'm done. Her breath hitched. Good. I wanted her to feel it. I wanted her to know, in the deepest part of her, that she had lost me, that there was no talking her way out of this, no fixing it, no world where I would ever forgive her. And before she could open her mouth to argue, before she could try to salvage the wreckage, her phone buzzed. She frowned, reaching for it. Who? And she went still, stared at the screen. A muscle in her jaw twitched. Another buzz, and another. Her hand started shaking as she scrolled. Her lips parted, her breathing coming quicker, eyes darting over the words, desperate, panicked. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Waiting. She swayed slightly, fingers moving faster, reading message after message, each one worse than the last. And then, finally, she looked up. Shock, disbelief, fear. Good. That fear? That sinking, stomach-twisting realization? That was the moment she understood. She was not in control anymore. I was. Her voice was barely a whisper. What did you do? I set my cup down with a soft clink. Then I smiled. Not a kind smile. Not a forgiving smile. A slow, careful, deliberate smile. The same thing you did, Jessica. I leaned back, stretching my legs, watching as her face drained of color. I made a choice. She started shaking her head, her voice rising. You know you did not. I did. Another buzz. Then another. Her hands flew to her mouth. Oh my God. I tilted my head. Something wrong. She let out a sharp breath, stumbling back slightly. I can fix this. I can. I arched a brow. Fix what? Her lips trembled. She knew. There was no fixing this. Jessica had spent years lying, years convincing herself she could do whatever she wanted, that she could shatter something and decide when and how it was put back together. But some things cannot be fixed. Some things have to burn. And now she was standing in the wreckage of her choices, and there was no way back. No second chances. No escape. Just consequences. She opened her mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to scream. I did not care. I picked up my phone and turned the screen toward her. The headline was already spreading like wildfire. University professor under investigation for inappropriate relationship with student. Jessica's hands shot to her head, her breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps. I took another slow sip of my coffee, and I watched her world collapse. She stood there, frozen. Her hands trembled as she clutched her phone, scrolling frantically, as if she could somehow undo it all. As if the words on the screen might change if she stared at them long enough. But they would not. They were permanent, just like what she did. Her breathing came in short, ragged bursts, her chest rising and falling too fast, teetering on the edge of a breakdown. I had seen her stressed before. I had seen her worried, even upset. But this was fear, and I was not going to stop it. I was not going to save her. Jessica had made her bed, and now she was sinking into it. She stumbled back, gripping the kitchen counter like she needed something, anything to hold on to. Her phone buzzed again, then again, then again. I knew exactly what was happening. The school had seen the reports. The board was talking. Her colleagues were whispering, and the students were already eating this up, because nothing stays quiet in a place like that. A professor sleeping with a student? It was the kind of scandal that never disappears, the kind that sticks. Even if she somehow managed to talk her way out of getting fired, even if she convinced the board that it was not technically illegal, none of it would matter. Her reputation was already in flames. Jessica gasped, her phone slipping from her fingers, clattering onto the floor. She did not pick it up. She turned to me instead, her face pale, her eyes wild. "What did you do?" she choked out. I leaned back against the counter, crossing my arms. I held up a mirror. She blinked rapidly, struggling to breathe. "You..." She shook her head violently. "You set me up." I laughed. "No, Jessica, you did that. I just made sure everyone saw it." Her fingers dug into the counter, her knuckles going white. "You ruined my life." I arched a brow. "Like you ruined mine?" She flinched. I did not mean to." I pushed off the counter, stepping closer. "Do not say it." Her lips trembled. "But I..." "Do not say it." My voice was low, dangerous, because if I had to hear her say one more time that she did not mean to, that it was a mistake, I was not sure what I would do. I had spent years believing in this woman, years building a life with her, years thinking we were a team, and all of it, had been a lie. She had looked me in the eye every single day, knowing what she was doing. She had kissed him, knowing exactly what it would do to me if I ever found out. And now she had the audacity to act like I was the villain? Jessica took a shaky breath. We can fix this." I laughed. A cold, sharp, bitter sound. "Fix what? Your career? Your reputation?" I tilted my head. "Because you're not talking about fixing us. There is no us anymore." She went still. And then, suddenly, she was not crying anymore. Something in her shifted. The panic faded, replaced by something colder, something more calculating. She straightened her shoulders, inhaling slow and deep. And when she spoke, her voice was quiet but steady. "If you think I'm going to let you take everything from me," she said, "then you do not know me as well as you think." I held her gaze. "Oh, I know exactly who you are." Her jaw tightened. "Good." I wanted her to be angry. I wanted her to feel every single thing I had felt in that moment when I walked in and saw her with him. The betrayal, the disbelief, the rage. She had spent all these years believing she was the smartest person in the room, that she could manipulate anyone into believing whatever version of reality she spun. Not this time. This time, she had lost. And I wanted her to feel every second of it. Jessica's breath hitched. You love me." I did not even blink. "I used to." Her face crumpled. She took a step toward me, her hands shaking. "Please," she whispered. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But you do not have to destroy me." I tilted my head. "Do I not?" Her lips parted slightly, like she could not believe what she was hearing. But why was she surprised? Had she really thought she could betray me like this and just walk away? Had she really believed I would just take the hit and let her move on, let her live her life while I picked up the pieces of mine? No, she did not get to walk away from this clean. Not after what she did. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it this time. Instead, she just stood there, trembling. "I love you," she whispered. I let the silence stretch between us, thick and heavy. Then I leaned in, just enough for her to hear me clearly. "No," I said. "You love control." She gasped softly, like I had just knocked the air out of her lungs. I stepped back, my heart pounding, my hands steady. Jessica had spent years believing she had power over me, that no matter what, I would always be there, that I would always choose her. She was wrong. She had lost me. She had lost everything. I turned, heading for the front door. Jessica rushed forward, grabbing my arm. "Wait." I yanked free, my voice like steel. "Do not touch me." She stumbled back, stunned. I pulled the door open, pausing for just a second. Then, without turning around, I spoke one last time. "I hope he was worth it." And then I walked out. I did not look back. I did not hear her sobs. I did not care. Because as far as I was concerned, Jessica was nothing but a ghost now. And I was done living with the dead.